Alright, so chapter 1 review solutions. So number 1, switch to black. X plus 2 equals -3, so hopefully a fairly straightforward problem for you. And x is -5. Number 2, -8. So it's subtraction, so I add. -8 plus 7, -1. Number 3, -2x equals -14. Divide by -2. Okay, so remember we're doing opposite operation. So the black part means -2 times x, so I divide by -2. I don't do the opposite sign. We never are doing the opposite sign. The number 1, it was add, so I subtract. Number 2, it was subtract, so I add. Number 3, it was multiply, so I divide. So number 4, that means divide by 3. So I do the opposite and I multiply by 3. Excuse me. Alright. So number 5, 2x plus 8 equals 20. So I always do, if you remember the steps, parentheses, combine, so there's neither of those, and then I do adding and subtracting to both sides. And then multiplying or dividing. And in many cases, it's dividing. Okay. So number 6, this has a tricky part to it. Most people get the first part right, where they subtract 9. What the mistake is that we forget that there's this negative sign there, and we just put x equals 3. So with that negative sign, remember that's really like a 1. So I divide by -1. Okay, so be careful of that. There will be one similar on the test. So number 7. So here's one of the exceptions to our steps. Parentheses, there's none. Combine, there's not. Then it says do adding and subtracting and then multiplying and dividing. Well, we can't add and subtract here because the 4 is being divided with all of that. So this is the exception where we do need to multiply first and to kind of get rid of the fraction, and then subtract at the end. Okay. Alright, number 8. Excuse me. So I'll add 5. And then that means divide, so I will multiply. Get 30, and the 3's reduce. Alright, number 9. Start to do some with variables on both sides. So since there's only an x on the right, that means I need to move the x's that direction. I would not want to move the 9x over. It makes it, there's some problems if you do that. Oops. Not divide by 3, or divide by 3, not divide by 2. All right. Number 10. 2x plus 10, 6 minus 2x. So when there's x's on both sides, and numbers on both sides, we want to move, in my opinion, the smallest x first. So negative 2 is smaller than positive 2, so I want to add 2x. So remember, when I am moving a number and the x, I'm always going to add and subtract. Okay, then I'll do minus 10 divide by 4 and x equals -1. Alright, number 11. 4x is 3. Okay, so distribute to get rid of the parentheses first. I'm going to actually do that on both sides. So negative 4x plus 12. Really be careful with the negative 4 that you're doing negative times a negative. If you put minus 12 instead of positive or plus 12, obviously you're going to get the wrong answer. Okay, so move the smallest x. So negative 4 is smaller than 2, so I'm going to add 4x. The reason I do that is because it makes the x part positive most of the time, and that usually makes the problem easier. Okay, subtract the 12. Now, some people think because we have a 0 there that means like something's wrong or should be no solution, something like that. A 0 in the problem is okay. What's 0 divided by 6? 0. So 0 is the answer. That just means if I plug in 0, I'm going to get the problem right. Okay, 0 is an acceptable answer. Alright. Number 12. Probably the hardest one. Let's see. So we're gonna distribute the 10 on that side and distribute 2 on that side, so we get 20x plus 20 minus x, 16x minus 16. So on this one, because I have 3 things over here on the left, I need to combine the 20x and the minus x. Okay, so I'm combining this and this. I get 19x plus 20. Alright, so once we have 4, there's two things on either side, then we're going to start solving. So move the smallest x, 16 is smaller. X plus 20 equals negative 16. And then subtract 20. Negative 36. And lastly, divide by 3. And x equals negative 12. Okay, so really long one there. Alright, number 13, so short one, absolute value. So make sure we do what's inside the parentheses first. Negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. Absolute value, positive 5. So hopefully that's an easy one for you. Alright, 14. So we do some absolute value equations. So get the absolute value by itself. It is. Is it no solution? No, because it's positive 8. If it was a negative over there, it would be no solution. Write 2 equations. One positive and one negative. And then solve them. So the solving part should be the same on both equations. What I mean by that is, you notice we added 4 on both sides on both of them. And then we divide by 2. And then a majority of the time you're going to have a positive and a negative answer. Okay. Alright, number 15. Negative 4. X plus 3 equals negative 20. Now, don't get tripped up by the negative 20 over there. Follow the steps. Get the absolute value by itself. So that negative 4, remember, that means multiply. So I divide. Don't add the 4 over there. That doesn't mean subtract 4. That means negative 4 times the absolute value. So the opposite of times is divide. Now we check for no solution. Well, it's a positive 5, so that's okay. If that was a negative 5, I would put no solution, or any negative number for that matter. So write 2 equations, one positive, one negative. Solve each one. So again, if you notice, one positive answer, one negative answer. Like a lot of the time, that's what happens. Okay, so here's another hard one. Write an absolute value if the answers are x equals -2 and 8. So here's what I recommend. Make a number line. -2 would be over here. +8 would be over here. And so then, you know, if you want to put 0 in there, that's fine, just to help. I don't know if that helps or not, but so this is what I do. Like, how far is it between -2 and 8? Well, it's 10 spaces. So what I'm looking for is the middle. So half of 10 is 5, so I need to go 5 spaces in this direction, and I need to go 5 in that direction, and that will give me the middle, which is +3. Okay, and so I'm going to use the 3 and the fact that I went 5 to the middle, or to get to the middle, as in my answer. So the equation I can do is x minus 3. Okay, we do the opposite of whatever that number is. So if the middle in a problem was -2, you would put +2 or +2 inside the parentheses. Okay, and then because I went 5 in either direction, it's 5 right there. So very rarely, if hardly ever, will you see -2 and 8, those are the answers, in the actual equation. Probably never. Okay, it's going to be different numbers. Make your number line, figure out where the middle is, how far did you have to get from the edge to the middle, so we had to go 5 spaces, and we used the 3 and the 5 in the answer. Alright, a few more. So 17 y minus 4x equals 10, and the direction said solve for y. So very simply, hopefully, just add 4x. Done. Okay, 18 said, let me write this in here. This said solve for y. This one says solve for x. Well, I notice that I can combine those two things right there. And then if I'm solving for x, I need to divide by 8. And remember, in a lot of cases when we do these, I should make that a better y, it looks like a 4. You're not going to combine stuff together very often. So in this one we do have a 3x and a 5x, but when we add something to both sides or divide on both sides, very rarely are you going to be able to combine stuff together. More often than not, you won't. You'll just write it out. So this says solve for y. So on the test, make sure that you follow the directions. Make sure you read solve for x, solve for y. So I'm solving for y, so that means I got to get that 3x out of there. So it's minus 3x. and then divide by 2 in each one. All right, last one. This is another solve for y. 3x minus 4. Okay, solve for y, so I need to move everything that's not the y to the other side. So minus the 5. So in this time, this is one of the exceptions where I could combine -4 and -5, but then divide by 3. And so if you wanted to turn it around, do that or do that, either one is okay. All right, so there you go. You should know how to fix any of the problems if you got them wrong. Okay, so you know the right thing to study for the test tomorrow. Okay, so get all your assignments in, study for your test, and we will see you tomorrow.